Okay, wait a minute. Okay. So it's already, is that all of you can see the
Okay.
point?
Yes. Very nice.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Before I started, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du. Before I started, I want to say thank you to Brother Shahran and Prof. Osman Bakar, and also for all the IIIT committee that encouraging us to have this event to present our paper. So the first one, my title is about Nyak Dien between Indonesia's Islamic perspective and Dutch colonialist conspiracies. Okay, the first one, I would like to introduce the briefly historical background of Nyak Dien. Nyak Dien, called also Nyak Dien, she was the most prominent female female military leaders in Indonesia history, and she was a hero who led the Achenese guerrilla forces against the Dutch colonial power for about 25 years during the Aceh War, start from 1873 until 1904. Okay, and then she was born in Lampadang 1850 and was passed away on 6 November 1908 in Sumedang. Both of her parents received the well-grounded Islamic studies, and both of parents also from aristocratic family, and her fathers belonged to Ule Balang. Ule Balang, also called in Malay words is Hulu Balang. So it means the administrative position given to people from aristocratic groups during the system of governance of Sultanate Aceh. And then her mother also belonged from aristocratic family, and she was a daughter of Ule Balang of Lampagan, and continue to Nyak Dien marriage life. Okay, at 12, at her age of 12, in her early education, Nyak Dien received Islamic knowledge and also learned skills regarding Islamic knowledge and household matters. She was, and then after that, she was renowned for her beauty and received many marriage proposals until her father arranged her marriage to Teuku Che Ibrahim Lamga. Teuku Che Ibrahim Lamga is also from aristocratic family, and then the first Aceh War on 26 March 1873 erupted, and the Dutch forces destroyed Aceh Grand Mosque, and husband died in the war. So at that time, the Achenese also forces were led by Panglima Polim and Sultan Alauddin Mahmud Shah, and managed to defeat the Dutch forces under the command of Johann Herman Rudolf Kohler. But Kohler is so underestimated with Aceh forces, and she was shot to death. She was shot to death, and then after that, because of her husband died in the war, so it will, and the mosque is destroyed. So it caused Nyak Dien to understand that Achenese should be free from being of the slave of the Dutch, as their religion and their house of worship are not respected by the Dutch. And then 2 years later, Nyak Dien accepted marriage proposal from Tengku Umar, and he allowed her to continue fighting. They were married on 1880 and granted with daughter named Chut Gambang. And They together raised the spirit and morale of the Acehnese and gathered armies to fight against the colonial power. And during that time, uh, they have 250 strong men will surrender to Dutch in 1893, and Tengku Ibrahim, famous as a commander, and she was having a good behavior. He full of wisdom, and he has a great knowledge of warfare tactics, while Nyak Dien played a vital role in this military operation by giving constructive advices to her husband and also in planning warfare strategy. And then later, Tengku Umar was killed when Dutch led surprise attack on him in Malabo. After that, Nyak Dien continued to lead Acehnese forces with a very small colony or small army till 1901. And then continue. Okay, this is the main topic that we'll discuss. Okay, why I put the Dutch colonialist conspiracies at the top of the stage? We can see that it has a 3G motto: God, Glory, Gospel. It was emerged at 15th century when the coming of Portuguese and the siege of Malacca on 1511 marked the beginning of European colonial powers in Malay world. And then the Portuguese take control of Malacca for almost 130 years, and until it was wrested by the Dutch on 1641. And then the Dutch ruled Malacca for almost 180 years. And then Malacca considered as the important colonial port during the Dutch rule. And then 1822, British become a third European colonial power to control some major part to the Malay world. And then on 1824, Malay world divided into two: Indonesia to the Dutch and Malay Peninsula to the British. For almost 500 years or five century. And after that, the Malay Muslim world ruled by European colonial powers, and the history was then told the Malay Muslim are struggling. It highlighted that colonialism is not only about political and economic domination. So we can see because of they have motto God, glory, and gospel. So it's not about political and economic domination, but also it could be said that the perspective of our local history was then seen from the Eurocentric view. So from the view of the spirit of gospel. So, and of course, the word view was taking place for Eurocentric view. So, in the second stage, in the middle stage, we can see that the spread of Western paradigm into Malay Muslim world. We have secularism and feminism, and of course the world because of the Eurocentric view. The worldview also the worldview or paradigm is taking place uh, for that condition during the colonialism. And then secularism, as we all know, that secularism is most often associated with the age of enlightenment in Europe, and it plays major role, and it because colonialism, secularism existed in the Malay world. Okay, before we continue, this is the briefly definition of secularism. Secularism is the principle of the separation of government institution and person mandate to represent the state from religious institution and religious dignitaries. And secularists campaign for separation of religion from the state and equality for all in society, regardless of religion or belief. Secularists recognize that religion has long been a major contributor to female subjugation. And also, we have feminism. It emerged at in the end of 18th century, start from Mary Wollstonecraft, and she was criticized about the condition at that the woman condition at that time, because they don't get the inheritance, and then they are so marginalized from the society. So this is like feminism is the worldview. Feminism is the worldview where a woman as the center of the paradigm. It means that they concern with the patriarchal concept. It's from Susan Osborne. And then we can see this is patriarchal religious institution try to maintain the status quo by exerting control over women's bodies. And we can conclude that feminism has been concerned with understanding inequalities between women and men with analysis of male over woman. So back to the last the last stage, we can see in here distortion fact that Islam taking a lead for independence of Indonesia. So actually, this paper inspired by the rewriting from Dr. Adian Husaini. The title is like, if I have not forgotten, please be fair with Kartini and others Muslim heroines. So it's mean that in here we can see that what Dr. Adian the writing said that because in our society we only know Kartini as the heroine, or as a heroine to fight for emancipation. So why not others? Why not others? Muslim? Why not others Muslimah? While we have Nyak Dien, also Rohana Kudus, and also others, and then. In here we can see that the history that learned in school is a history of elite colonial. I mean that, like for example, like Kartini. Kartini. Kartini is a very close to the colonialist, and when she wants to build the school, she get support from the colonialist. And then why I say here the history monopolized by colonialists, because at that time the history of Malay world already chosen by the colonialist, who is the one shown forward. So it means that on the colonialist shown forward as the hero, who will become the hero and who will become the heroine of Muslim Malay world. Then after that, during this time, the Indonesian secularists are inherit of Western paradigm. It means that the Muslim Malay world society taking over the history and selected who deserve to be an icon of hero and heroine. So,
2 minutes, sister.
Okay, we do not define and created our own symbols of Muslim Malay world culture. Then we develop, and then we continue what colonialists already given to us. And this is the evidence. The evidence once we can see this is the Nyak Dien. This picture is so famous during the second wave of feminism, when the woman works at the labor. when woman becomes a labor in and it's quite famous in America, that this one. So the Indonesian feminists want to mention that Cut Nyak Dien also feminist. And the second evidence from Magdalene, this is the popular literature, and it mentioned that Cut Nyak Dien fight against Dutch colonialists, and also mentioned that she was feminist. And then the evidence three also, in here Cut Nyak Dien was a pioneer of feminism in the early 15th century of Indonesian history. And then the evidence for dalam sejarah kita mempunyai sederet nama perempuan yang memiliki kesadaran kritis dan melakukan perlawanan, dan salah satunya adalah Dewi Sartika, Cut Nyak Dien. So at that time, but our history is still so it's still blurred, because what I want to say that even that at that time of Cut Nyak Dien, Ule Balang was the ruler, but the position of the ulama was no less important, and Achanese people was dominated by religious values, so that the existence of ulama was very close to people's life and politically. During the system of governors of the Sultanates of Aceh Darussalam, having three pillars: Sultan, Ulama, and Ulebala. So first, so Ulama at that time having two positions as the enlightener for people's minds, and their thought becomes scientific reference, and their fatwa become moral guidance and legal reference. And the second as the central position as a role model for the people. So it meant that at that time, even that Sultan Panglima Polim and Sultan Alauddin Shah also comes to the ulama and wants to have an advice from them. So that's enough maybe for me, because it's